I'm sure you've all heard the term calorie before. Low calorie diet, high calorie diet, calorie this, calorie that. But do you actually know what a calorie is? A calorie is a unit of measurement, but it doesn't measure a weight or measure a length. A calorie is a unit of energy. When you hear someone say something contains 100 calories, it's a way of describing how much energy your body would be getting from eating or drinking that substance. Every food and every drink we consume, except water, contains a certain amount of calorie, which means it's going to give your body a certain amount of energy. All the food you consume on a daily basis is all made up of calories, and all the food you consume on a daily basis is added up to a total, which is called your daily caloric intake. Your daily caloric intake is calculated on a daily basis, and this is the main unit of measurement that determines whether you gain weight or lose weight for that given day. If you're consuming more calories than what your body burns on a daily basis, you will gain weight. If you are consuming less than what your body burns on a daily basis, you will lose weight. If you are new to the calorie world, most people think calories are a bad thing and they're not good for you. That's actually incorrect. Calories are not bad for you at all. Your body needs calories for energy. But eating too many calories or too many of the wrong types of calories and not burning enough of them through exercise or through your training regime will lead to you to gaining weight very fast. Almost all foods and drinks contain calories. Some foods such as lettuce contain very little calories. 100 grams of shredded lettuce has less than 10 calories. Other foods like white rice, which is a high GI carbohydrate, contain a lot of calories. 100 grams of uncooked white rice is about 350 calories. You can find out how many calories are in an item of food by looking at the nutrition facts on the back of the label. I also use an app called Calorie King, which allows you to just type the food and the weight of the food into the app, and it calculates the amount of calories in that item for you. Now, when you go even deeper into the calorie world, you will come across the term macronutrients. Macronutrients are used for energy, growth, and bodily functions by organisms, which is us. Depending on the activity level of the individual or what your training goals may be, these macronutrients are needed in small or large amounts. Macronutrients are the key in the bodybuilding world when it comes to dieting, to build muscle, and to drop body fat. There are 3 macronutrients consumed by humans, and they are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Each of these macronutrients provides energy in the form of calories. So what that means is that the 3 different kinds of macronutrients, when eaten all together, total up to be a certain amount of calories, which will equal your caloric intake. For example, in carbohydrates, there are 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates you consume. In protein, there are 4 calories per gram of protein that you consume. And in fats, there are 9 calories per gram of fat you consume. So if you were to consume 10 grams of protein, that would add up to 40 calories. If you were to consume 10 grams of carbohydrates, that will also add up to 40 calories. And obviously, if you consume 10 grams of fats, that would add up to 90 calories because fats contain 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. Does that make sense? It's very simple once you get your head around it. I'm going to go over what a protein does, what a carb does, and what a fat does in terms of function in the body and how it affects your body composition. And then I'm going to explain to you how this is relevant in the bodybuilding world as well. I'm going to go over what a protein does, what a carb does, and what a fat does in terms of function in the body and how it affects your body composition. And then I'm going to explain to you how this is relevant to the bodybuilding world as well. Protein is a macronutrient that's essential to building muscle mass. It's commonly found in animal products, which in the bodybuilding world we like to call lean meat. So things like chicken, turkey, tuna, beef, lamb, etc. It can also be present in other sources of protein such as nuts, eggs, tofu. When protein is broken down in the body, it helps form muscle mass. It helps the body recover, and it also helps the immune system stay strong. Protein is the macronutrient that is going to help you stay full for longer, and in terms of the way your body looks, protein is the number 1 macronutrient that is going to help you build muscle and drop fat. A lot of research has also shown that protein is the number 1 macronutrient that helps repair and rebuild broken down muscles. For those of us who want to look good and for those who train hard, we need to consume more protein than what the normal person would who doesn't train at all. We need it to recover because protein is crucial. Carbs are made up of simple sugars that break down inside the body to create glucose. Glucose is moved around in the body, in the blood, and is the primary source of energy for the brain, muscles, and other essential cells in our body. There are two forms of carbs. There are high GI carbs and low GI carbs, and they both have a very different effect on the body and have a big effect when it comes to building muscle and dropping body fat. So low GI carbs like sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa, they are a form of sustained energy and do not force the body to release a large amount of insulin when they are consumed. High GI carbs like sugars, table sugar, white rice or white potato release a large amount of insulin once they are consumed and do not provide long-lasting energy like the low GI carbs do. Once insulin is released in your body, put it simply, it's like a key that unlocks or opens your muscle and fat cells. Once insulin is released into the body, your muscle cells and your fat cells open up and the nutrients you are consuming get shuttled into those cells. As you can see, by spiking your insulin levels, it does increase the chance of building muscle, but it does also increase the chance of putting on body fat. So it's very important that you are eating the right kind of carbs at the right times. In terms of bodybuilding, you need to make sure you have either your oats, brown rice or sweet potato meals before you train. Then you have your white rice or white potato meals after you train. You have low GI before you train because it gives you slow release energy, allowing you to train harder and longer. And you have your high GI carbs after you train because it spikes your insulin levels and shuttles all those nutrients into the muscle, maximizing the growth and recovery. If you're eating all high GI carbs all day, your body will release too much insulin and most likely put on too much fat. If you're eating low GI all day, you're not maximizing your muscle growth because you're not utilizing one of the most anabolic hormones called insulin to your advantage. So remember, always have your low GI carbs before workout and throughout the day. Have your high GI carbs straight after you train because of the insulin spike. Once again, carb is not just a carb; they do have different effects on your body composition. Now onto fats. The two types of fats we consume are saturated and unsaturated. Unsaturated fats are generally considered better for us than saturated fats. Unsaturated fats are foods like avocado, almonds, peanut butter, etc. And saturated fats come in food items like ice cream, donuts, fat from any meat, butter, cheese, etc. The reason that unsaturated fats have a better effect on our body is due to the molecular structure of that fat. Saturated fat forms regular shapes that clump together easily. Unsaturated fats form irregular shapes that cannot clump together easily. Saturated fats is therefore most likely to stick to the sides of the arteries and main organs and allow other saturated fat molecules to build up. Okay, so this will gradually clog up the arteries and make the blood pressure rise. As I mentioned earlier, fats are very high in calories. Every gram of fat equals 9 calories. So you need to be very careful about not only the types of fat that you are consuming, but the amount of fat you are consuming because the calories do add up very fast and can lead to putting on excess weight. Okay, I know this sounds all very complicated, but this is what protein, carbs, and fats are. This is what we need to take into consideration when we are dieting. Okay, at the end of the day, you don't so much need to know what they do and all the scientific terminology I've just used. All you need to do is be aware of what you are consuming and how much of it you are consuming. Now, how this relates to us, dieting, how it relates to dieting to get in shape is probably just as complicated, but I'm going to do my best to explain it to you in simple form. So when we start a diet or decide to make the commitment to getting in shape, I've mentioned several times in other videos, you need to come up with a base diet and make regular changes to that base diet if you want to continue making progress. If you want to build muscle, you increase carbs from your base diet at a rate that is necessary, and when you are looking to drop body fat, you decrease the amount of carbs you are having at a rate that is necessary. This is very hard for me to teach you as there are so many factors that contribute to putting together an accurate base diet, but I'm just going to give you an example or a rough guideline you can follow without me actually having to do it for you, as everyone's different. When coming up with a base diet, you need to take into consideration your age, height, weight, gender, your activity levels, the work hours, and your training regime. There are a lot of things you need to take into consideration. So what I'm about to tell you is not 100% accurate. It's not customized to you as an individual, but a rough guide you can follow if you want to do this by yourself. Okay. Again, this is not 100% accurate because I'm hoping there are thousands of people watching these videos and I cannot explain to every one of you or calculate for everyone personally. I can do that with my online coaching clients and this is what I do for them, but the process will stay the same for you. So in this video, I'm just teaching you the process. Please remember this is just a rough process and not 100% accurate for you. So when you start a cut for a male or a female, or you're starting a bulk, your base diet will contain the same amount of calories. That's correct, the same amount of calories. When you are starting a bulk or a cut, your base diet starts at the same place and then goes off in a different direction as time goes by. When you are cutting, you are starting on a maximum amount of food and decreasing it as you go. Okay, so this way. When you are bulking or building muscle, you are starting on the minimum amount of food and increasing it as you go. Okay, for a female, at a rough guess, you should start on approximately 2,000 to 2,300 calories, depending on all those factors I mentioned before. For a male, we start approximately on 2,800 or about 3,200, depending again as well. If you are cutting, you cut the carbs on a weekly to fortnightly basis, like I teach you how to do in my video, How to Lose Fat Through Dieting Correctly. And if you're trying to build muscle, you increase your carbs when you can, like I explained into my video, How to Build Muscle Through Dieting Correctly, okay? Does that make sense? So cutting and bulking. So, for example, if you decide to start a bulk or a muscle building period, you start on 3,200 calories, and from there you increase your carb intake as necessary. 3,200 calories will be the starting point. If you decide you want to start cutting and focusing on getting leaner, you will also start on 3,200 calories, but there you would decrease your carb intake on a weekly to fortnightly basis as required. So again, 3,200 calories is your starting point. The base diet is calculated the same for a cut or a bulk, but depending on which one you are going for and what your training goals are, you will either increase your carb intake over time or decrease it. I'm going to make these calculations based on a person whose base diet is 3,200 calories and they're eating 7 meals a day. So of the 3,200 calories, I personally like to do a macronutrient breakdown. So 40% protein, 40% carbs, and 20% fats. So of the 3,200 calories you are consuming on a daily basis, that would equate to you consuming 1,280 calories coming from protein, because that's 40%. 1,280 calories coming from carbs, because that's also 40% of the 3,200 calories. And approximately 640 calories coming from fat, because that's 20% of 3,200. Each gram of protein equals 4 calories. So 1,280 calories divided by 4 is 320 grams. So on a daily basis, you're eating approximately 320 grams of protein. You will also be eating 320 grams of carbs, because the same calories divided by 4. You'll be eating 72 grams of fat, because 640 calories divided by 9 equals 72 grams. You then divide these amounts evenly across all your meals. You have protein in all 7 of your meals, so you divide 320 of protein divided by 7, so that's 40 to 45 grams of protein in all your meals. You do the same thing with carbs, 7 meals, okay, divide 320, again you get 40 to 45 grams of carbs in each of your meals. With fats, only 2, remember there's only 2 fats, 2 meals per those fats divided by 72, you divide those into your meals. And this is how you calculate your base diet. You divide the correct amounts into each meal, and depending on what your goals are, you slowly decrease or increase your carb intake over time. I know that it's not completely accurate for everyone, it's just a guide. There are a lot of factors you need to take into consideration when putting together a base diet, but as a rough guide, I'm very confident if you tried this method and use it correctly, you will see incredible results. I also know it sounds complicated, but if you do have a go at this by yourself, I want you to watch it a few times and write it down so you can see it in front of you, because it really is very simple once you understand it. The way I learn everything I know is by watching videos over and over again and writing stuff down. So make sure you put in the time and effort and listen to it a few times and put it into practice. Please remember that this is just a guide and I'm just explaining to you the correct process in calculating your base diet, and again, that everyone is different. I cannot tell you accurately without actually knowing all of the factors I mentioned earlier to you. So again, this is just a guide so you understand the process of how macros fit into your diet when dropping fat and when building muscle. To be perfectly honest, I actually hate all this stuff. It drives me crazy. Hate counting calories and macros and reading labels 24/7, which is why I don't recommend you do it either. I do not count macros after I've established my base diet. I don't get worried about it at all because it's quite stressful trying to monitor everything and having your macros perfect all the time. It really does create unnecessary stress. So once I come up with a base diet, I totally forget about the macros and calories altogether, and all I monitor is the amount of food I'm consuming on a daily basis, okay? You gradually cut your carb intake over time if you're trying to lose fat, and you gradually increase your carb intake over time if you're trying to build muscle. You just need to play around with the amount of food that you are eating in each meal. The macro breakdown, once calculated, does not matter. Please watch my other videos, how to lose fat through dieting correctly and how to build muscle through dieting correctly, so you have more of an understanding of the process you need to go through. I know this is all very confusing and I have gone on forever giving you a heap of information. The information is very accurate. Everything I'm saying is correct, but I don't recommend being so pedantic. Counting macros and monitoring calories, you don't need to do that. Okay, just establish your base diet, work out exactly how much food you will be eating across all of your meals, and then leave it at that. Okay, you then play around with the amount of food you are eating. Increase your carbs as you go by, adding in an extra 100 grams of sweet potato, for example, if you're trying to build muscle. If you're trying to drop fat, cut your carbs by decreasing 100 grams of sweet potatoes and increase your cardio as you go. The macros don't matter if you are increasing or decreasing the correct foods. Do not obsess over macros. It's not an enjoyable way to live. All right, I don't do it and I've gotten myself to where I'm happy without it. I'm not saying I have the best physique in the world, but I believe there is more to life than worrying about and obsessing over macros and your calories. Spend your time learning about something more important. Learn about business, learn about something you're passionate about, set yourself up to be in a good position when you're ready to start a family, something like that. Or if you have a family, to get them into a better space, etc. Whatever your situation is, I promise you can find better things to do with your time than pull your hair out stressing over macros and calories, okay? Again, establish the base diet, do your calculations for that, figure out how much food you need to be eating across all of your meals, and let your body get used to that amount of food for a few weeks. Once your body weight has stabilized on this amount of food, you can start adding carbs or cutting carbs based on your goals, and then all you ever need to worry about is the amount of food you are eating in each meal, and you don't have to spend your time worrying about stuff you don't need to worry about. I apologize for the information overload. Feel free to watch over my videos as many times as you need to get your head around it. I've done my best to explain and teach you how macros work and how they affect the body, but don't obsess too much. All you need to do is calculate your base diet and that's it. Train hard, eat well, and enjoy life.